Hi everyone, welcome back. So this video is going to address some of the elements in the introductory paragraph for essay number 1 specifically. Again, as I always encourage you to do, is to review the video that focuses on general introductory paragraph development. Now remember that each type of essay is going to require a specific context and purpose in the introductory paragraph, but at the same time, we still have some of the same elements for all introductory paragraphs. So as I said before, please watch that video and then come back to this one in how to transfer the introductory information and apply it specifically for essay number 1. So what you are looking at in front of you is a paragraph, an intro paragraph developed by a student for essay number 1. And you can see this is the before, and then under the revised version were elements and examples that I had suggested as far as revisions are concerned and how to actually make the introductory paragraph more contextual and fit the purpose for what he was addressing in the body paragraph. So we're continuing on with the topic of mask mandates and the perspectives of the mask mandate. So if you want to revert back to the body paragraph video to kind of see where we were going and what direction, and this will make a lot more sense. So this is a continuation of that. Now, as you can see, that I always encourage people to write the body paragraph first because it allows you to develop the intro a little bit more strongly, simply because you already know what you wrote in the body paragraph. So you already have those key terms, patterns, observations you've made, the perspectives that you presented. So it allows for you to find more specific phrasing and sentence structure that'll fit what you're actually presenting in the body paragraphs. And the other thing too is a lot of times we want to write the introductory first, and because we have a general sense of what we want to write, we don't really have the specifics because things are always in motion and we're always revising. So if you do write the intro first, that's okay if it helps you get started, but you'll always want to go back and see how you can refine it a little bit better. So that's sort of this process here. As you can see in the yellow, in the before, I kept the elements in the yellow the same, and then in the blue we added a little bit more context as it relates specifically to what he presented in the body paragraph. And then in the green is the thesis statement. And if you are unsure about what the thesis statement is and what its purpose is and what it looks like and how to create one, please watch the thesis statement video. So we will begin. Let's start with the before. He has more than 450,000 Americans have died due to the coronavirus as of February 2021, a staggering figure. So what he's doing right here is providing a startling statistic, which works great. This is one of the strategies suggested in developing an intro paragraph. It serves an important purpose because it gives us the reason as to why we are, or in this case, he is talking about or addressing this particular topic. So we start with this. Now keep in mind that there are many layers to COVID and the relation to the 450,000 Americans. Of course, we have layers. We can talk about politics. We can talk about choices that people in power made. We can talk about the health issues. We can talk about the health industry. So we're still in a general sense, but we still have a startling fact and figure that grabs the reader's attention. So as you begin to develop your intro, you have to slowly begin to refine it. That will lead into a very specific element of COVID in this case. So he continues, COVID-19 is the respiratory disease caused by the coronavirus that was first reported to reach the United States in January of 2020. So he continues, we are still not out of the woods yet, even with the vaccines being distributed across the country. So this is going to be an important statement and a strong one to have in here because it's going to transition into what's most likely, okay, so what do we have? So naturally, if he's looking at the perspectives of masks, that should ideally be the very next statement. What he has here instead is jumping into the nation being heavily divided, presidential election, debate topics, things like that, which sort of begins to get off topics. And then we have the Black Lives Matter protests, climate change, election front. So we want to be careful when we begin to get off topic because even those things are related. they're not related specifically to what he's presenting in the body paragraphs, okay? So what we did then in the revised version, as you can see in the blue, is state rather, in the meantime. So this gives us a relationship between the before sentence and the after. So again, indicating that while we don't have the vaccines being distributed across the country, in the meantime, we do have masks. So this is now beginning to introduce the more specific subject of what we're getting into, which is the perceptions and the masks mandates. So in the meantime, masks have been central to the mitigation of the spread of COVID. However, and so this is a key word here, where the nation remains divided is the perception of masks in relation to. And so by having the keyword however here, that's going to be important because now that's leading into his whole purpose for why he would explore the different perceptions of the mask mandates. Now, in this instance, he would fill in the blank, right? So I didn't fill in that blank, but if we look back at our previous notes, we know that some of the quotes were things like dictatorship and the right to have these freedoms, my body, my choice concept, or the idea that government shouldn't tell me what to do, or, if I wanted to be able to. So you need to find a way to incorporate that here. So if we repeat the sentence, however, where the nation remains divided is the perception of mass in relation to. So we might say something like, in relation to freedoms, individual freedoms, or freedoms of choice on whether or not to wear the mask, or government control. So however you want to begin to phrase it, because then if we say that, then we'll know to expect it in the body paragraphs, right? So then we continue, which has led to the politicization of masks. And so we know that it's going to lead to that because the body paragraph has told us so, right? The other thing too is now we're going to lead into the thesis statement. So the thesis statement gives us a preview of what the author is going to address in the conclusion and in the analysis. This thesis statement should be arguable. This should give us an indication where the author, the person writing this essay, stands as far as the commentary that he has about the perceptions presented. So here he says, due to people's perceptions that masks are, and again, you'll fill in the blank, the politicization of masks is contributing to America's poor handling of the pandemic and subsequent death toll. So right here is his commentary. And this line here should be the essence of his analysis/conclusion paragraph. And it gives us what he thinks about the perceptions presented in the body paragraph. And that should be something that is also arguable as well. As I indicated in the thesis paragraph, in the thesis video, that all thesis statements should be arguable to a certain degree, okay? But this gives us a very specific position, which is great because now I know that in the conclusion or, after presenting all the perspectives, this is where he's going to provide his commentary or how he sees the perspectives there. So we went from this before, not getting off topic, and revised it so that way we know it's about masks. We know it's about the politicization. And you can see how one sentence leads into the other. And this is what you want your goal to be for the intro paragraph. You could also see that he uses one of the strategies, which is using a starting statistic. If you're not sure what all those strategies are, or some common ones, again, go back and watch the introductory paragraph on ways that you can begin to introduce that, okay? So now that we know what the conclusion or analysis body paragraph should look like, let's go ahead and talk a little about that. And so in this instance, I want to point out what the purpose of an analysis conclusion paragraphs, or if you have multiple, that's fine too. But as I've stated in the outline and in the Essay 1 video, we should have the so what factor, okay? So now that you presented these perspectives, there are some things and ways you can analyze or draw conclusions about those perspectives. So what did you discover after exploring this? Maybe this was more of a learning experience for you and you want to present that to your readers. Perhaps maybe you want to draw conclusions about what those perceptions say about society, or perhaps maybe you're learning that a lot of these perceptions are due to prejudice or bias. So these are just a limited number of questions, of course, but ultimately you want to look at the elements in relation to what you have. So let's go back again. For instance, in our body paragraphs, we know that we've introduced these perspectives. Obviously, for example's sake, we're only looking at the conservatives, but ideally we would have the liberal perspectives as well, whatever those are. So you have to draw conclusions as the author. So what do you think this all means? Based off of the specific quotations that were presented, what conclusions can you draw? Now, of course, depending on what the liberal perspectives might be, he can compare and contrast. He could identify that there's a really stark difference, and that could be troubling in some aspect. Whatever it might be, the conclusion analysis should have some commentary about the perceptions presented. That means that whatever you say should stem directly from the perspectives. Meaning, if you give commentary and say it's ridiculous that these people see mask mandates as a silencing, well, none of the perspectives made any commentary about silencing, so there's a disconnect in your analysis. That's just you getting off topic. It needs to stem from the perspectives. It should draw conclusions about the perceptions. Maybe you determine that they are, in fact, misconceptions, and you're going to explain why. Again, why does this matter that it's a misconception? To whom does it matter? The other thing is connections relating to the perceptions presented to other issues surrounding the topic. So looking at a brief example of his ideas here, okay? Again, so maybe he determines that, the fact that they're focusing more on the dictatorship and freedoms and things like that. What they're not talking about, of course, is how these perceptions affect others, right? And so, going back to the intro, he noted that 450,000 Americans died, and so if he wants to, in conclusion, make commentary about how that could be problematic in relation to others' health, and saying this is a serious issue, that if people carry on with these perceptions, what's troubling is none of how they see it is in relation to other people's well-being and health. And so if he wants to, he can end there as well. So it's really open-ended in how you write the conclusion, as long as you are touching upon any one or more of these three elements. Again, we should get the whole, so what, why does this matter, of course, and why did you, the author, bring these perspectives in? What conclusions are you drawing about them? What kind of commentary do you have about them? And of course, this all should be reserved for the analysis and conclusion segment of your essay, okay? So with that being said, just as a reminder, you have a checklist here. This can be found in Essay 1 assignment description about all the elements that I'll be looking for. And again, be sure that you are watching the other videos about strategies for developing. So you'll notice that even though we're writing specifically for perspectives, we're still following the same strategies for body paragraphs. We looked at the Texas format for the paragraph. We're using strategies based on a statistic, and then of course leading into the thesis statement. And then naturally in the conclusion, we're always answering the so what question and why does it matter. And then these are more questions you can ask to get more in-depth and involved. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or send